till I can't no more.
I got the horses in the bag. Horse stock is a tag.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Protocol 36. Recently, new details of Marvel Spider-Man 2 has just been leaked on 4chan and by a Reddit user, and apparently these are the first details that have been revealed so far. Now, the article that I'll be reading from is GamingIntel, and if you want to read it for yourself, I'll leave it in the description down below. Also, bear in mind that these are rumors and that nothing has been confirmed yet, so take everything with a grain of salt. I would also really appreciate if you could give this video a like, as that would really help out the channel. Thank you. Now, the leak is saying that Marvel Spider-Man 2 is currently in production, which we already know. However, voiceover and motion capturing of actors haven't been done yet thanks to the pandemic. Now, a few weeks ago, Yuri Lowenthal did say that he hasn't done any voice work for Marvel Spider-Man 2 so far, and when I heard that, I thought he might have been lying or joking around to make sure that no leaks and secrets go out. However, assuming this is true, it looks like he has been telling the truth, so that part might be correct, as if he hasn't done any voice work for Peter Parker so far, then good chance that he hasn't done any motion capturing for the character. It continues to say that due to this, the team started working on playable sections in-game, which would make a lot of sense, as when Insomniac was working on the first game, the first thing they were working on was the web slinging, so I could definitely see that being true. However, still take it with a grain of salt. Some loose emails leaked suggesting that the script for the game is complete. Work in the game began in January 2019 and entered full production in the second quarter of 2020. Now, for the script to be complete, I still have a feeling that they're working on it right now. However, I could be wrong, but then again, that's just a feeling. However, they have been working on it since January 2019, and we know that because Brian Intihar tweeted around that time talking about working on the first draft, and we all assumed that it was Marvel Spider-Man 2, which the leak states that that's the case. But what's interesting is that they entered full production in the second quarter of 2020, so from around April to June, I believe. Even though Insomniac was working on Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, that was a smaller game, and Insomniac has different teams for them to work on, so there's a good chance that one of the bigger teams worked on Marvel Spider-Man 2, since we know that that's going to be a much bigger game than Spider-Man Miles Morales and potentially Marvel Spider-Man, which for that game, I believe Insomniac had most of the members to work on that specific game. Not to mention, we have to consider the fact that Insomniac was working on Ratchet and Clank as well, so it does seem believable that between April and June, that's when they started working on the game, meaning that they've been working on it for almost a year. So not only do they say that this will be a direct sequel to Marvel Spider-Man, but like the first game, we will not only be playing as Peter Parker, and that there will be two other playable characters in the game, which each having different code names. Now, these code names could be what the developers use outside of the game in order to prevent leaks and spoilers that they want to hide, and one of them referring as Night Spider, and the other has two code names being Purple Bat and Shin Vigilante. Now, it's speculated that Night Spider could be referring to Miles Morales, as that was one of his aliases in the comics. Not to mention, it would be a little weird not to play as Miles even a little bit after both Marvel Spider-Man and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, GamingIntel is also speculating that this could be referring to Venom as well. However, I don't really think so. I think this is probably referring to Miles than it is Venom. Not saying that Venom won't be a playable character, though that would be sick as like a post-game option similar to the Ultimate Spider-Man game. However, I'm leaning towards the fact that it could be Miles, since he makes the most sense. Now, the Purple Bat or Shin Vigilante could be referring to Yuri Watanabe's character, Wraith, since not only did she appear in the first game but also appeared in the DLC, and throughout the DLC we see her transformation from an honest police officer to a dangerous vigilante Peter Parker has to stop. Now, we pretty much assume that Yuri will show up in the second game, as that would make a lot of sense. However, I never thought in a million years that she could potentially be a playable character, and if that's true, then that means Yuri will be more important to the story of the second game than we thought. And apparently she's incredibly fun to play as, since apparently Yuri will be using Mr. Fear's fear toxin on opponents. Now, if you don't know, Mr. Fear is basically a daredevil villain who uses fear gas to cause anxiety, panic, and great amount of fear in his victim, making them useless in a fight and diminishing their willpower. So in other words, he's basically DC's Scarecrow, but looks a lot like DC's Phantasm. So if this is true, hopefully we do get to see him in the game, unless Yuri kills him somehow. And this could also mean that the Man Without Fear isn't too far behind, as we all know that he already exists in this universe, and many people, including myself, really want to see Insomniac's take on the character. Wraith will be wearing a suit with tentacles for traversal and tangling opponents. Her introduction as a playable character would welcome some spice to Marvel Spider-Man 2's gameplay gameplay. So I wouldn't be surprised if she plays somewhat similar to Peter Parker and Miles Morales, obviously having her own different quirks and combat abilities to differentiate herself from those two characters. So if this is true, she could possibly be the Catwoman of Marvel Spider-Man. Similar to the Arkham games, you can play as Catwoman in certain missions. So it's possible that Insomniac might be doing the same thing when it comes to Wraith. And if this is the case, I really hope that this is done well, and I have no doubt that Insomniac will kill it. The article continues to say from this leak, it looks like as though Marvel Spider-Man 2 will be an effortlessly customizable experience. Looks to allow the player to choose for Peter Parker and Miles Morales for playable mission. A document has stated that voice lines will be recorded for cutscenes to make the spider changes more thematically sound. For example, if Parker is chosen for one mission and Miles is chosen for the next one, Miles will say, "Peter told me to check this place out," or something similar. So from reading this line, I'm getting a lot of GTA 5 vibes, as in that game you could pretty much switch to 3 different characters. Only this time it looks more like you could switch between Miles and Peter, and Yuri probably being available for certain missions. And if you're Peter Parker and the game tells you that a mission is available but you choose to go as Miles Morales, the game will make it make sense as though Miles was sent there by Peter, which is pretty awesome, since I love it when games do that, as it makes it more authentic and makes me appreciate the details even more. So I really hope that bit comes true, as that's what I really wanted for Marvel Spider-Man 2. It's also been indicated that Wraith, if she is truly who the codename suggests, will be a smaller character, appearing in smaller side missions. This will be similar to Mary Jane's Miles Morales sections in the first game. This is a great added feature that helps to ensure that your favorite webhead gets their time to shine. It's not as though the game's customization is lacking though. The Marvel games have had an incredible lineup of costume, Miles Morales especially. So as I mentioned before, that Wraith will have a smaller role in the game, showing up in a few missions here and there, probably important for the overall story or possibly even side missions. And since it suggests that her sections will be similar to Mary Jane and Miles' missions in the first game, I hope that it's executed much better this time. But since this is Wraith we're talking about, I think this definitely has a higher chance in beating those missions, as to many people those weren't their favorites. So assuming that this is true, once again, it looks like Insomniac is learning and taking the feedbacks from the first game, trying to improve upon it and adding something new on top of it. And if this is true, then I think we might have a solid game coming out. It's also interesting that we might even get customization in the game, and that we could possibly even design our own Spider-Man suits, which would be amazing, as I think some people have been asking for that for a while now. And it looks like once again Insomniac has been listening and trying to experiment new things when it comes to the sequel of Spider-Man PS5. Right now we don't really have any story leaks. I might cover those depending how big they are, since I don't want to potentially spoil myself, but we shall wait and see. However, what about you guys? What do you think about the leak for Marvel Spider-Man 2's gameplay and characters? Do you like what Insomniac could potentially be doing? Do you think any of those are true? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please like, and want more, subscribe. To begin, Protocol 36.